Welcome again to our journey in the adult education program of Grace United Methodist Church in Winfield, Kansas. In this series, we're digging deeper into the practices to which the United Methodist Church is committed as we forge together a new way for a new day. We've discovered so far that if a person is uncomfortable with futuring, uncomfortable with balancing, reasoning, or partnering, they'll be uneasy in the United Methodist Church. This week, we add to the list another bland and mundane verb, delegating. However, in my opinion, this practice of delegating is the hidden gem of our denomination. It is hidden because it's never talked about, it's taken for granted. And it's a gem because of its value in the life of the denomination and every local church, particularly in 2024. Now, practice of delegating is a choice we're making as we carve out a new way for a new day. What it does is clarify the issue of authority in the life of the church. Now, the history of the church represents two approaches to authority. Authority is either centralized or delegated. The consequence of this choice sets the stage for governance and the meaning of participation in the journey of faith within God's church. Now, centralizing authority is when the church can be described in a diagram as a pyramid. A person or single entity is at the top of the pyramid. Final authority for every action or proclamation rests with the entity or the individual that is at the top of the pyramid. Many denominations, many local churches are organized in this way. The advantages of centralizing authority include efficiency and simplicity. This is a reason why hierarchy, the centralizing of authority, is the choice of many faith communities. It's not the choice of the United Methodist Church. We choose to delegate authority. This choice was made first as we organized in 1784 in the cradle of the American Revolution, for the Methodist Church was born in that time of 1784. The newly organized church chose to delegate authority just like the new United States government was established, of delegating authority to the executive, to the judicial, to the legislative branch. Both at the denominational and local level, authority was to be delegated, not centralized. No single entity or individual is responsible for every decision or proclamation of the church when authority is delegated. So instead of a pyramid, we have with this choice a diagram of a circle. Within that circle, there are individuals, offices, and committees, commissions. And there are lines connecting these offices and these circles within the circle. These lines represent lines of accountability for recommendations, final action, implementation. And looking at the circle, it appears to be very complex, very confusing. It does not have the benefit of efficiency and simplicity, which is experienced in a hierarchy. But this practice of delegating is the source of the description of the United Methodist Church being organized to beat the devil. Now, if the devil is the personification of evil, and if evil includes autocracy and other abusive results of centralizing authority, and if it is true that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, indeed, the United Methodist Church's choice to delegate rather than centralize authority has a lot of benefits. And I'm just going to list two of those benefits, which I believe justify the potential confusion and complexity of the practice of delegating. First, the practice of delegating enables change to take place without a revolution. Human history illustrates that when authority is centralized and one person or entity is responsible for everything, the only avenue for change is overthrow, a revolution. But when authority is delegated, change indeed is cumbersome, involves a lot of individuals, a lot of groups, and it takes time, but the ravages and costs of a revolution are avoided. But secondly, delegation is based on the principle of the ministry of all Christians. There's no class structure or caste system among believers. No person, no entity has a corner on divine truth. The pew nor the pulpit are more important than the other, for all of us are engaged in the ministry of all Christians. Now, in 2024, throughout the world, movements abound supporting centralized authority and autocracy. These movements exist within the church as well as within social, economical, and political structures. Individuals and organizations strategize as minorities try to be in control of the majority. Now, the General Conference of the United Methodist Church met this year in 2024, and they stood fast over against this effort within the United Methodist Church. And every major decision made at the 2024 General Conference, the choice was made to delegate authority rather than centralize authority. There's no elbow room for autocracy in the United Methodist Church. You know what delegating authority does is affirm the gifts of everyone. People have different gifts, and when those tasks are delegated out to people who have the gifts to accomplish them, all of a sudden things happen as a result of delegation that could have never happened in an autocracy where a single entity or person is in control. We have a song we sing that gets at that utilization of gifts. Remember, God of change and glory, God of time and space, when we fear the future, give us your grace. In the midst of changing ways, give us the grace to praise. Many gifts, one spirit, one love known in many ways. In our difference is blessing, from diversity we praise one giver, one Lord, one Spirit, one Word, known in many ways. For the giver, for the gifts, praise, praise, praise. Delegation is for the gifts. Praise, praise, praise. I want to conclude with recognizing that in discussion with some of you, I've heard it said so often, I count me out of committee work. It's not efficient, it's a waste of time. And my response has always been, consider the alternative, choose the hierarchy, turn our back on the ministry of all Christians, plant the seeds of a revolution, plan for the rule of a minority over the majority. For me and my ministry, I'll choose the practice of delegation every single time. The General Conference of 2024 said a resounding no to all of the calls today for centralized authority. Yep, if a person is uncomfortable with delegating, they're going to be very uneasy in the faith community called the United Methodist Church. And for your thought and conversation, first of all, what are your experiences in organization and churches with centralized authority? What are your experiences with class structures and caste systems within faith communities? And finally, the practice of delegating is to utilize the gifts and graces of every person for the sake of God's mission of love. Have you experienced your own gifts and graces utilized in your own faith community? Thanks for being a part of our journey.